main points are really about the three main points are really about contracts. They're around clear ways of working, and also, how you create a team, a feeling of a sense of team. And these are, I think, the things that help us when we're onboarding new clients and we're working with new clients. So, before we jump into each one of those points, I suppose it's just reiterating why you might actually outsource marketing. And there's lots of reasons that you might do that. I think first off is the access to specialist skills and specific expertise. Outsourcing marketing really allows you to tap into a greater pool. When you have marketing resources internally, they're fantastic because they really know and understand your business. However, sometimes they're stretched, they've got lots to cover, or they might not have a certain skill. So a marketing agency might be able to provide you with a different expertise and different skill there. So it's bringing those insights and getting access to that specialist knowledge that can really help to then make sure that marketing activity is impactful. I think as well, the other reason is there is a cost saving. So, when you outsource marketing, again, you might be able to maintain some in-house marketing resources, but not all of the different breadth of skills that you might require. Also, as you look to outsource, you might have different packages you're on or different retainer models. Again, so that can be a more cost-effective way for you to manage and operate your marketing activities. I think one of the things that we forget, and my example of this was I was trying to sort out last night my end of year finances, and but I'm a marketing person, so really for me, I should be focusing on my core competencies and making sure that our business is focusing on the core competencies. And while after I'd spent an hour going through some financial information, I just thought to myself, actually, you just need to pay the experts to do this. And I sent an email to my bookkeeper to say, hey, actually, I will need you to help me with this piece of work because it's not my core. And whilst I was spending time on that, it was time that I wasn't spending supporting our clients and doing, delivery of work. So focusing on your core competencies and making sure that you're using your skills to the best of your ability, I think is sometimes we overlook as we're running businesses. We can really overlook that. The final sort of two reasons, for thinking about outsourcing, is around creativity and, the exposure to fresh ideas and how the two organizations, together yourselves with a marketing expert, your client, the business, bringing that together, bringing the, knowledge of the marketing people together, and we can really create creativity and really have more innovation in thinking there. So creativity is one reason also why we might look to outsource marketing. And then last of all, it is that flexibility. Sometimes you've got people on leave or whatever, and you need to have some flexibility and scalability. So there's plenty of reasons why you might look to outsource marketing. So how do you do it? So once you've made those decisions and you've seen these benefits, what are those things that you must do to really create that healthy, robust relationship? So the first component is really putting a contract in place, just as you would do with other suppliers, just as you do with clients. They sign contracts, they sign insurance policies there. So a contract, I think, is important, even if it's only for a short-term specific piece of work, but it sets out those terms and conditions so that there's no surprises. And I think in any relationship, you don't really want surprises. It's not like when your partner comes home and you've got a great present, and that's a nice surprise, and we'll all have that. But in business, we don't want surprises. So a contract helps to really clarify the deliverables, the costs, how you're going to work together, and so on. So I think that's really important. What's in scope, what's out of scope. Now, I think when we talk about a contract, people go, oh my God, it's legal, that's going to take a while. It does not need to be war and peace. We use just like a 2-page contract. It's really short and sharp. So it doesn't need to be war and peace, and it doesn't need to feel like, I suppose, feel overwhelming. sort of there. I think including things like the term of work and the deliverables that I mentioned, but also things like ownership rights. Who owns the materials? Do you get to take those materials at the end of the day? We're creating advertising assets for a client at the moment. Once we've finished that work, they're their advertising assets, not our advertising assets. So we can't reuse them for another client. And I think that's, important to understand who owns materials once you've created marketing materials. Obviously, confidentiality. And having a confidentiality clause, again, sometimes, it's really key that you don't want other people knowing what you might be thinking of from a marketing strategy point of view. So having a confidentiality clause in your contract. And I think this really just provides you with a bit of that legal protection in a relationship in case there is some sort of dispute. I think that, putting this contract in place really helps to provide clarity when you're starting a relationship and creating these things and putting these things up front so that you're both starting from the same place and that you're on the same page. The second point that I would focus on and really recommend is the ways of working. Clear processes and ways of working are really paramount for getting the best out of the relationship. Now, we talk with our clients about this upfront. In fact, often at the proposal stage, we will put some information in proposals about the process that we're going to go through to create a marketing strategy, or we'll talk to them about the processes that we might use to create content and get content approved and published and so on. So we really talk about these processes up front and use flow diagrams and so on to really make sure that we're on the same page. So I think that is really important. I think understanding those processes and then aligning your priorities and your goals as well. Are you both, are both parties, are both organizations focused on the same deliverables and the same goals? Which is really important because you want to be putting the effort into the right activities as well. So, I think that's really important. Being clear on those and then coming back and reporting on those. So if you've got measurable goals and KPIs and so on, what's your regular reporting cycle? So you look at the reports. Are we on track? Are we not on track? Can we achieve towards those goals that we want to that we want to achieve. And this also allows you to have conversations where things aren't going well. So rather than leaving things for long periods of time, having things that are not said, it's important that, say, each quarter you look at a report, we're tracking well here, we're not tracking well there. How do we adapt? Why aren't we working well? What sort of conversation do we need to have? This would be the same sort of conversation that you would have with employees if they were not performing, for example. And we really encourage that open dialogue. And I think it's important to have those conversations with your, service providers as much as it is internally with employees too. The second part of working together and ways of working together really is around how do you work individually and how do you work together. We have clients that are all on Microsoft, they're all on Teams. We're a Google-based business, so we operate in that environment. So just talking about those things, how do we access documentation? How do we share documentation? How do we collaborate on documentation and do all of that securely? In marketing, there's often, between the client and the outsourced provider, there should be some going back and forward and people collaborate together and might work on one lot of documentation. So tracking changes, getting people's inputs, getting people's perspectives, all of those things help to make the end outcome much better and much more relevant for your audience. So it's important that you have the tools and the processes in place that allows for that collaboration. Thinking as well about the project management tools that you use. And again, you might have tools that you use within your business. We use a project tool called Monday.com, which is a really good project management tool. But we also have clients who use Asana. So we use Asana for those clients, and they provide us access to their platform of Asana so that they can see the project management, and we're working off one project plan. And that's really useful when you're working particularly on a campaign or something that's going over a long period of time. Everyone can see where activities are at. And sometimes the activities sit with your outsource provider, and other times it's activities for part of your internal team. So again, you can have one project plan so that it's all together. So talking about how you might run activities and work efficiently and together is important too. I think that the other point in the ways of working is upfront, ensuring that your agency, whoever you're working with, making sure that they understand your approval process. If the deadline is the 12th of July, and they're giving you work on the 12th of July, but you've actually got to then go through 3 stages of approval, that's not going to work. So the deadline needed to be a week earlier so that you've got a week to get all of the approvals you might need to internally and so on. So I think it's important that you let your agency know, okay, this is how it gets approved within our workplace. This is the steps we need to go through. We need to allow and factor that into our timeframes. And also understand if there's politics that sit within those approvals, as well, for things like that. And equally, I think that it's useful for an agency to make sure that they've been really clear with a client around revisions. When we look at graphic design, usually 2 revisions, and then anything above 2 revisions, you might be charged an additional cost for. Now, this would obviously depend on the relationship and depends on the contract and so on, but it's important to know that some clients might think that they're going to want 3 or 4 changes. So how do we factor that in upfront? And everyone's working to, we know we've got 2 revisions, and we, then finalize a piece of work. So understanding approvals from your side and understanding revisions and associated costs and how that works is really key to making sure that you're satisfied in the relationship and that you're getting, I suppose, the deliverables that you want to be getting as well. So the last piece of the puzzle, my last must do when we're looking at outsourcing marketing is really about working together as one team. Now, this takes time, obviously, and it's the longest thing to, I suppose, achieve. And really, it's a lot about building trust and how do you build good, solid relationships and build trust. I think when you work together as one team, you can really maximize that collective knowledge that you have and those skills that you have. I mentioned just earlier about, your business and your clients, and sharing as much of that as you possibly can is really vital, so that outsourcing provider understands your business as you do, so that they can nuance the marketing work, so they can make sure that marketing work is, really spot on. Sorry, there was a big truck going past, so I just sort of stopped for a second. And I think that, that sort of sharing that knowledge and using those collective benefits of, and that collective knowledge of your business, and the marketing provider knows marketing and the marketing landscape and changes and what's emerging, and sharing those things so that you're always educating each other, on both sides here is really helpful and useful, and really helps to deliver better marketing activities and work. I think also bouncing ideas around. So creativity is really important, and often as humans, we feed off each other. If there's an excitement, we can generate excitement from each other. So it sort of builds on from that first point, like sharing that knowledge and bouncing ideas around really leads to great creativity. So coming together, doing workshops, talking, working as that one team, doing, whether it's an online workshop, whether it's a face-to-face workshop, but doing the brainstorming each quarter, talking about what's been happening in the market, talking about your results, all of those things help to generate ideas and energy and excitement, which will lead to better marketing activities there. So, creating that collaborative environment so that you can bring those really fresh ideas and fresh strategies. Lastly, I think, in working as a team, whether, any team, obviously we talked about trust, but that's about being open and transparent with what's going on internally within your organization and also for, the service provider. I think, certainly if we can't make a deadline that we've committed to, or if, something's going on in our business that is, going to impact us supporting you and the deliverables we've discussed, then we should be talking to you about that up front. Again, it's that no surprises piece. So creating that environment of one team, being able to have that open dialogue and say, hey, this isn't quite on track, but we're going to fix it here and here. Does that work for you? Having those sorts of conversations. And again, organizations go through lots of change. There can be politics and all of those things. So as much as you can share what's coming up to your marketing outsource provider around change, internal change, or any of those politics, that's really important, because then what you'll find is that, again, they can help adapt. You might need to adapt your marketing strategy, you might need to slow down activity, or you might need to, pivot somewhere else so that you can still achieve your objectives. So I think being open and transparent and sharing information is really important. So they are, in summary, our three must-dos to really create a strong and mutually beneficial relationship. So first off, put a contract in place and make sure you've got some clear agreements up front. Really look at what your ways of working are and how do you make that efficient for each other. And then creating a trustful relationship and working together as one team. I really believe that, putting those three things in place will help to create a solid relationship with any marketing outsourced provider. And really that then makes sure that the marketing activities you're creating and developing together are impactful and add value to your business. I'm happy to take some questions. We've got a couple of minutes left for questions, so happy to take questions. So you can come off mute, pop on your camera if you like, or you can just pop them into the chat. While you might be thinking of some questions, and we had some questions as people did register, we do try and run these webinars every 2 months. So while you're thinking of your questions, if you are interested in our next webinar, which is in September, it's on exceeding clients' expectations, which of course is really key for marketing in the insurance sector. Customers are always changing, their expectations are always changing. So we always need to keep up pace with the customers there. So if anyone has any questions, does anyone have any questions for me? Well, I can't quite see the chat.
There is a question in the chat, Caroline.
Oh, great. Sorry. Okay. Do you have a contract template we can use? So you can probably find some online. I can't obviously share mine with you, but I could certainly send you the points that you need to cover, and you should be able to find one fairly easily online. So if you want, Kerry, I'm happy to send you an email post this session tomorrow, and I can just outline for you the key dot points. I think our contract has about 10 clauses in it, if you like, so it is pretty simple there, but you would be able to find one doing a fairly simple search online, for those, and I'm happy to send you that tomorrow. Marco, we've got Kerry's email address in our registration. Yep, great. So Kerry, if that helps, we'll do that for you tomorrow. Great. I know there was obviously there's a few questions in the registration around outsourcing copywriting for insurance-related articles. Again, that is something we can certainly help you with. It's something that we do for many clients. We develop blogs and social media content and manage blog content and social media content and website content for a number of clients across the insurance sector. So more than happy to talk to people about that as well. Are there any other questions from the group? No. Look, I'm, really happy to answer questions or have a chat, or if you've got some specific things that are happening in your business that you're just unsure about and just want to get a little bit of advice, more than happy to have a chat with you. So you can sort of certainly reach out to me in my details through the QR code, and we'll send a follow-up meeting, a follow-up email later this afternoon or tomorrow as well with our details. So you can reach out at any time just to have a chat, and we can share any information that we possibly can. And Callie, I'll certainly share with you an email tomorrow around those key points in a contract that I would look for. If there's no further questions, we'll wrap up a couple of minutes early, perfectly on time. So thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate you dialing in.
Thanks a lot.